Okay, welcome to class, everyone. So let's get ready for class today. We've got some props nearby, hopefully bolster, block, several blankets, a belt nearby would be great too. Have that near your mat because we'll be using that later on. And find yourself in your sitting position. Go ahead and take the flesh of the buttocks away from the sitting bones and allow yourself to find a seated and comfortable grounded spot on the height on which you're sitting this morning. Today we're going to do a heart-centered class. Time for that. It's a good time for that. It's always a good time for that, but especially this week. So sit up straight and tall. Allow your sitting bones to drop down and let the spine be free. Let the spine open just a little bit, stacking one segment of the spine on top of the other, balancing the head right on top of the shoulders. Hands can be facing down or facing up, whatever feels good for you today. And then gently closing your eyes or simply directing your gaze downward, and we'll sit for a few minutes. And so the sound of the singing bowl brings us into this space. Grounding here, feeling the solidness of the floor or the chair below. We've built a bit of a seated posture here, allowing for a little bit of boundary. And now allowing the breath to move freely throughout the body. As we begin today, I'm going to invite you to take one hand and just gently bring it to your heart center. If that feels good. If you don't like to do that, you certainly don't need to. But if you wish, bring one hand to the heart center, gently giving yourself some reference on the heart. In this time of isolation, it's so important for us to feel and sense our community. This class is one of my favorite ways to enter into a loving community every week. So noticing the gentle warmth of your hand, that gentle reference on the heart center. Breathing into that space softly. And gently let that hand come back down. Take a few breaths. And then go ahead and take the other hand, if you comfortably can, and if you wish, putting that on the heart center again. Giving equal love to both hands. Feeling the warmth again of the hand on the heart, that little bit of reference. And as we begin today, I'm going to just read a passage from Rumi, we often do in class. Today, like every other day, we wake up empty and frightened. Don't open the door to the study and begin reading. Take down a musical instrument. Let the beauty we love be what we do. There are hundreds of ways to kneel and kiss the ground. There are hundreds of ways to kneel and kiss the ground. So let that hand at the heart float back down. Taking a few more breaths here. Gently filling the body with the breath. And then gently draw your sternum towards your chin. Lengthen the back of the neck, allowing the chin to come down over the sternum. Bring both hands to the center now, gently pressing the hands ever so slightly into one another. Finding that sense of midline, that sense of groundedness here. Thank you, body. Salute the goodness within as we begin our practice today. And then allow the hands to come back down to the thighs, palms facing up. Raise your head and open your eyes. Okay, go ahead and change the interlock of the legs if you're sitting in simple cross-legged. Let's just start with a few gentle warm-ups. So we're going to do some movements today, and modify these as you need to for your body. But keep the movement, keep the theme of keeping the movements very slow and fluid today. So nothing harsh today. We're just going to kind of flow in and out of movements. Take a little time for some supportive postures too, as we support our hearts and practice a little bit of a heart opening practice today. So let's go ahead and start with some very slow cat-cow movements. Remember, just dropping back a little bit on those sitting bones and letting the chest sink just a hair, not too much, especially if you're living with low bone mass in the back. And then really just emphasizing that lifting of the heart and the opening of the chest, and then taking it back. So to your capacity, finding what feels right for you today as we begin to warm the spine up, taking it nice and slow, keeping it slow and even. You can move with the breath if that feels good, or if it's easier just to move and layer the breath in, that's perfectly fine. Doing just a few of these, keeping it easy this morning. And then settle yourself back in the center. Be in the center for a breath or two. And then let's start with just a little bit of twisting. So I'm going to start gliding my hands and letting the body twist with that. Keep it really slow again today as we begin to warm up the spine. If you want to take the head back, you're welcome to. Or you can keep the head right in line with the sternum and the belly button. I'll leave it up to you today. As you turn toward one side, make sure that shoulder that is facing toward the front doesn't come along so much, but actually opens toward the back. So the chest is staying open as much as you can with every twist. So it's not coming forward, but it's staying back. Go at your own pace. It doesn't have to be my pace. Figure out what feels right for you today as we just take some time to really slowly warm up. And take one more to each side. Come back to the center. Again, be in the center for a breath or two. And then let's just gently roll shoulders. And if it feels good to kind of roll and move the spine, this class knows that yes, shoulder rolling isn't just shoulder rolling. It helps us all to just get everything moving. It's very, very cold here in Minnesota right now. And so we have a tendency to clench and not move at all. Make sure you go the opposite direction too. So just some of these slow, easy movements are so important at this time of the year. Any time of the year really, but especially now when we aren't moving probably as much as we would like to be. So movements, the head can come along, the shoulder can come along. And then once again, let yourself be in the center. Notice what it feels like as the spine begins to wake up, as the body begins to wake up with these gentle movements here. Taking a couple more breaths. All right, we're going to transition to the floor and go into a passive chest opening. I'll show a couple different ways to do it, and you decide, depending on your body today and the number of props you have, how you're going to take the passive chest opening. So one way to take it is with a couple of blankets, taking one in a standard fold and just folding it over once, and then taking a second blanket or a pillow or whatever you happen to have and making that into a pillow. So if you're taking this variation of a passive chest opening, you'll want to make sure that your bottom is on the floor. It's not on the blanket. Your bottom is on the floor. Notice my knees are bent, and I'm just slowly easing myself back, making sure I have enough for my head. I could even take a little more for my head right here. My arms are out to the side about 45 degrees. And once you're comfortable here, I'm going to lift my buttocks and draw my tailbone away from my back. And you can just relax with the legs down if that feels okay for your back. If you'd like to take a little higher form of passive chest opening, I'll show you that now. So in that one, I'm going to use my bolster as a support for my head. Put a blanket on top of my bolster. You may not need a blanket. You may need 2 blankets. It really depends on your body. And then I'm going to use a block underneath my shoulder blades. So I'm going to use the block in this position. You can also use it higher if you'd like, but today I'm going to demonstrate it in the little lower position here. So I have my head support set up, my block at the lowest position. And again, I'm going to sit with my bottom on the mat. Take a little bit of an arch up as I ease myself down, and then I have to position myself so that block is right underneath the bottom half of the shoulder blades. I'm going to pull my blanket up a little closer to my head so it's fully supported. And then notice I've got this really nice arch here. Then I'm going to, just like I did earlier, just lift my buttocks up, draw my tail down toward my heels. And then if you're comfortable, allowing the legs to come out and the arms to go out to the sides about 45 degrees. If you choose this position for your passive chest opening, make sure that the elbows go all the way to the floor, that you're not supporting the arms, or the arms aren't stretched out like that, but the elbow all the way through the forearm into the back of the hand is supported on the floor. And you can just let the legs passively roll out for now in this position, whichever position you're in. So go ahead and take the time you need to get into this position. I'm going to sit up, but I want you to be lying down and being supported for the moment in this passive chest opening position. Now, sometimes you need to keep the knees bent because it tweaks the back a little bit. So make sure that you're taking care of your back. And if it still bothers you, go ahead and take all of the blankets out and just lie flat on the floor with a little bit of support for the head. So take the support you need. Arms can be out, as I said, about 45 degrees, or if it's more comfortable for you to let the hands gently come to the midline and lie on the either the ribs or the abdomen, wherever they comfortably land. That's okay too. Find what nurtures you today in this position. And don't be afraid to adjust it. If it's not working for you, feel free to adjust it. But once you're in this position, I want you to notice that sensation of the block or the blanket beneath the back. Allow that positioning to gently move the spine toward the heart center, and then allow for the heart center to become open. Soft breaths into that region, maybe into those lower outside ribs here. And Your eyes can be softly open, kind of gazing through the ceiling, or if you prefer, they can be gently closed. Let the body receive the support behind the back of the heart, almost like a soft hand between the shoulder blades. Maybe even a little warmth will come into that part of the body. I'm going to continue with a little bit of Rumi today. The ecstatic poetry of Rumi. This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if there are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. They may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. One of my favorite poems from Rumi, The Guest House. So taking a few more breaths here in this passive chest opening position that we've been in. If you haven't brought your hands to the midline, now go ahead and do that, bending at the elbow, bringing the hands wherever they gently and naturally land, be it the ribs or the abdomen. Giving yourself that gentle sense of boundary, little bit of reference right where the breath is flowing. If you haven't, roll your legs in so the kneecaps and the toes are pointing toward the ceiling. Keep the legs gently active here, not vigorously today. Take a few more breaths in this position. And then bend the knees, put your feet flat on the mat. And let's go ahead and slowly roll to the side, placing one hand down, and then slowly coming back up into any comfortable seated position. Don't get too comfortable, however, because we're going to go all the way onto our hands and knees. So slowly working your way up into some sort of, tabletop position for the moment. We're going to start out with a half dog position. This can, of course, be done in sitting if you prefer not to be on your hands and knees. You could be up against a wall or a desk and doing a half dog or a downward facing dog against the wall or a chair, or even sitting this way. But if you've chosen to take it on your knees, you'll just walk those knees back a little bit, walk the hands forward, and lengthen the spine here. Nice long spine, such a relief after the chest opening, after that little bit of a back bend that the passive chest opening provides. Feels wonderful to lengthen the spine in this position or any position. So taking some nice breaths here. Remember, you can also take this on your elbows if that's more comfortable for you, if you're not bearing weight through your wrists today. So one or two more breaths here. And then slowly coming up into a tabletop position here. Now, rather than the typical cat-cow in this position, we're actually going to take a moving cow child's pose. So I'm going to walk my hands forward a little bit. And we'll come forward a little bit and we'll go into that sway back cow position. But then rather than going into a cat, we'll just slowly ease it back toward a child's pose. So moving. And of course, this can be done in sitting if you prefer, into the gentle cat and cow that we did earlier. A little bit of moving. If it feels good to bring it a little deeper into child's pose, you can do that. Keep, again, the slow flow going today. Really just spreading warmth throughout the body and awareness through the body as we move today. And if you'd like to take it back into a child's pose at this point, feel free to do that if that feels good to you. Maybe letting the knees come a little bit wider apart and then coming down. Let's slowly come up and walk the hands toward one side of the mat and take that child's pose to the side a bit. So we're opening up one side of the body. As you ease yourself back any amount, you don't have to go deeply. It can be up like this if you'd prefer, or it can be a little deeper. It's up to you. Breathe into that side that's opening, gently expanding those lower outer ribs with your inhalation. And then let's slowly release. Come on up. Walk the hands back to the center and over to the side, the opposite side. Same thing again, going any amount into child's pose. It can be a higher movement, such as I'm demonstrating here. Or if you wish to take it down a little lower, you can take it down. Remember, you can also take this with your elbows on the floor rather than bearing weight through the wrists. Take a few breaths there in your chosen position. Opening up again that side of the body that's lengthened here, breathing into those side ribs. Good. And then come on back up. Bring the hands back to the center. Again, if you're not bearing weight through your wrists for this next section, you're welcome to take a bolster and have the hands here. So whatever feels right for you today, you can either be on bearing weight through your wrists or not. It's up to you. And let's start by taking just a nice long lunge of the foot, of one leg. And then we'll slowly release and go to the other. So back and forth, lengthening the entire body. So don't just make this position a leg exercise here. So as I press out through one foot, I'm lengthening all along the course of the spine and out through the top of the head. Don't need to look up. Keep that neck very long and alternate slowly back and forth, one leg and then the other. Just slowly stretching the body. Reminds me of my cat stretching when he gets up, slowly taking his time. He's never in any hurry when he's stretching. And if it feels all right and you want to add maybe the opposite arm up, you could bring that opposite arm up. You could even bring the leg up if you choose. And so take any variation here that you'd like. Either stay with the legs, maybe add an arm, maybe add an arm and a leg. Again, not too vigorous today. Not too vigorous today. So take any variation that feels good to you. And then let's take the knees wide and ease it back into any variation of child's pose. I'm sitting up a little higher in child's pose here with my elbows down to really rest the wrists. Now, if you've had it with being on your hands and knees, feel free to come to a sitting position now. So either of the next moves can be done in a sitting position or can be done on your hands and knees. Either way, we'll be just taking a very wide arc twist with our shoulder and arm. So I'll demonstrate first, actually, why don't I demonstrate first in sitting? So you'll be sitting on some height. And we'll simply be going from one side and then opening the body up and then bringing it back. Same thing with the other side. So if you prefer to take this sitting, we're taking this really nice, beautiful, wide arc opening with the chest. If you prefer to take it on your hands and knees, we'll be on the hands and knees and we'll do the same thing. And so we're all taking this nice wide arc, alternating between sides, either taking it on your hands and knees or in a seated position, whatever feels right for you today. Opening up, whichever position you've decided to take this, you're spreading wide across the collarbones, one shoulder to the other, and out through the arm. And if you're on your hands and knees and you'd like to add a little bit more of a challenge, you're welcome to try taking one leg out to the side and then opening up, bringing it back down, and then same thing on the other side. So finding what feels right for you today. If you decide to take this without bearing weight through the hands, you can also do that. You can take it out to the side and come up this way, if you prefer. Either way, keeping it very slow and controlled. So finish up with whatever position that you decided to do. And then come back to a seated position in the center if you're not sitting. From here, we'll go ahead and transition to the floor into a Setu Bandha position or a bridge position. So for this one, you can use one blanket or two blankets or no blankets, but I'll show you my setup here. So I've got one blanket in a standard fold, and I'll put that on my mat. And then I'm going to demonstrate with two blankets, but if two blankets is too much for you, please just use one blanket because this is a bit of a back bend again. And I'll place my other blanket on top of it if you're going to use two blankets. As we go down to the floor, have your strap nearby because we're going to need the strap here in a few minutes. So I'm seated on my blanket. Now, before when we were seated actually in front of our blanket. Right now, we're actually going to have our bottom on the blanket. So my bottom is on the blanket here. Give everybody a minute to get set up. And then I'm slowly going to ease myself down. And notice that I'm coming all the way off the blanket so that my shoulders are in contact with the floor and my torso is supported on the blanket, giving me this, again, little nice back bend that comes with bridge pose. If you get here and your head is hanging You can use, if it's just barely off the floor, you can use a little support on the head. Otherwise, this isn't an appropriate position for you. And I want you to bring your body all the way down to the floor and give yourself some head support. Setu Bandha isn't a position for everybody. And because I can't see you, I just want you to be really, really safe here. So I'll give you just a few more seconds to work on finding the right position for you. So you could be on one blanket, two blankets, you can be all the way on the floor. Currently, as you can see, I have my knees bent and my feet flat on the floor. My shoulders are touching, the back of my shoulders are touching the floor. My arms are out, again, about 45 degrees or so. One of the things that happens in this pose is we tend to hold a lot of tension in our throat and in our jaw. So if you notice that you're holding a lot of tension there and you can't hold a conversation, then you need to soften that throat a little bit or change position because it may not be the right position for you. Once you're in this position, take your shoulders or your arms, you're going to rotate them out. I'm externally rotating my shoulders to tuck my shoulder blades in a bit. And I do that on each side, tucking my shoulder blades under, lifting that sternum just a hair by doing that. Re-soften the throat. Soft eyes in this position. Once you're here, if it feels comfortable to walk your legs down, you're welcome to do that. Otherwise, keep the knees bent and the feet flat on the floor. Let the body rest here. Soft breath in, soft breath out. The breath will feel different because we're in a bit of a back bend. It might be a little more shallow, and that's okay. As you remain here, I'm just going to sit up because I'm going to read just a little bit from Jack Kornfield. This is from his book, The Wise Heart, one of my favorite ones. This is about the courageous heart. The courageous heart is the one that is unafraid to open to the world. With compassion, we come to trust our capacity to open to life without armoring. As the poet Rilke reminds us, ultimately, it is on our vulnerability that we depend. This is not a poetic ideal, but a living reality demonstrated by our most beloved sages. Mahatma Gandhi had the courage to be jailed and beaten, to persevere through difficulties without giving in to bitterness and despair. His vulnerability became his strength. His vulnerability became his strength. So in this position, in this little Setu Bandha position now, if your legs are straight, please bend your legs, bending at the knee, placing the feet flat on the floor. Rest here for a breath or two. And then as gently as you can, press down through your feet, lift your buttocks a bit and slide your blankets out to the side. And then slowly lower the body back down to the mat. Readjust it all if you need to. Give yourself a little support underneath your head if your head tends to tilt back a bit. Take a few breaths there. If it feels good to drop the knees together and widen the feet a little bit in this sort of inverted V position at the knees, go ahead and do that. Let the body feel that sense of expansiveness that comes with Setu Bandha. Also a sense of quietness though. And so we're going to move here just a little bit more. So in this position, go ahead and take hold of your belt. Hopefully it's nearby. Now, you don't need to make your belt into a cinch loop, but you're going to take the tail end of your belt, slide it through your buckle just once. You don't need to slide it back through. So you're going to have a movable small loop here. And make the loop pretty small. Oh, this is when the cat comes to visit. You always need the cat coming to visit during your yoga class. He's probably going to chase my belt. All right, so I've taken my belt and I put it into a small loop here. I'm on my back with my knees bent. Bring your right knee towards your chest and take that little loop. Put it on your foot, but rather than putting it at the ball mound, which is where we usually put it, today you're going to move that loop down to sort of the base of the heel, where the arch just begins. So I'm putting the loop right on the base of the heel here, and then slowly straightening my leg toward the ceiling. And of course, that loop might slide a little bit. We're going to keep it as much toward the heel as we comfortably can. And your leg might push straight toward the ceiling. Maybe it's a little bit lower. Either is perfectly fine. Hang on to the strap with both hands and press that foot up toward the ceiling as if you were standing and bearing weight through that heel, right where the strap is today. If you're comfortable doing so, slowly begin to walk that opposite foot down until that's straight. Activate through both legs, pressing out through both heels. Turn your hands on the belt so one is covering the other, one on top of the other with the palms facing towards your knee. And slowly begin to slide the hands along the belt, getting as long as you possibly can, opening the side body here, coming into an inverted warrior 3 position. And I conveniently have my bolster for my arms to rest on. You can do that if you wish. Otherwise, maybe your arms go to the floor, maybe they don't. Doesn't matter either way. Lengthen through both sides of your torso, especially with the one side where your leg is toward the ceiling. Find your breath here, soften your throat. Good, and then slowly walk your hands back up the belt. Let's go ahead and hold the belt with the right hand and take the left hand out to the side, palm facing up. Now, we're not going to go into a big Supta Padangusthasana today, hand to big toe pose, just a little one. So find the base that the back of your shoulders, the back of the arm, the back of the down leg make. Inhale here and exhale as you take your leg only a few inches off to the side, maybe 8 to 10 inches here. And to create even more base and support for this pose today, the hand that's holding onto the strap can slide down and place the elbow on the floor. So you give yourself even a wider base today. Now find your breath here. Fill a whole vessel with breath. Good. Slowly bring that leg back to the center, bend the knee, and place the foot on the opposite leg. So it can be on the leg, the foot can be pushing into the leg. It's kind of up to you. We're going to go into a tree pose here. So activating especially through what would be your standing leg, your down leg here. Taking hold of the strap again in that one hand over the other position and gently bringing the arms over the head, getting as long and tall as you possibly can here as we go into a supine tree pose. Breathing here. And then release, walk the hands back up the strap, and then go ahead and release the strap. Bring that leg down with the knee bent, foot on the floor. Bring the other one up to meet it and rest there. And let's go ahead and take this on the other side. So of course the strap goes on the left foot this time, right back by the heel. Let's go ahead and straighten that toward the ceiling any amount. If you're comfortable doing so, go ahead and walk that other foot down. Breathing here and then turn those hands so one hand is over the top of the other, palms facing toward the knee, and slowly begin to ascend the arms over the head, any amount. Getting bigger in space, lengthening gently throughout the body today. Long torso, active feet, pressing the heels out. Finding your breath here, softening your throat, your eyes, your jaw. Walk the hands back up the strap. Let's go ahead and take hold of the strap in the left hand, bring the right hand out to the side. Inhale, let's exhale and just let the leg out to the side just a little bit. And then if it feels like it would help with the base, go ahead and slide that left hand down so the elbow is on the floor, giving you a little wider base in this today, a little more support. We won't be here long, a couple of breaths here. And then let's bring that leg back to the center. Allow the knee to bend and the foot to come to the leg. Coming into a lying down or supine tree pose. Again, the foot can be pressed into the side of the leg and the leg into the foot, or you can put the foot on top of the thigh if that's easier. One hand over the other on the belt and slowly sliding the arms over the head, going into a long, tall tree pose here. Oh, your cat's back in. Breathing there. And then slowly walking the hands back down and removing the strap. Let your arms drop out to the side and go ahead and just take some windshield wipers with your thighs while the cat tries to play with your belt. Ah, life. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. And then find those knees back in the center. Take a few breaths here. And then from here, we'll slowly roll to the side, making your way up very slowly. Keep the body quiet. I want us to finish today in a very supported position. So you can take your chair if you wish and lie down on your back with the legs on the chair. Something supporting your head, so you can be in this position if that feels good and comfortable for you. Or if you prefer to use a bolster, you can simply put the legs on the bolster. Oh, we gotta let the cat out again. Sorry, everyone. Off you go. Okay, so legs on the bolster and down, again, taking something for your head. So decide what position you'd like to take, either the legs on the chair or legs on the bolster. But get yourself really comfortable here. So I'll give you a minute to get that, making sure that you're warm enough too. If it feels good to put your socks on here, this might be a good time to do that. Taking whatever you need to be comfortable and warm for these next 10 minutes or so. So as you settle into this position, again, I'm going to invite you today to give your heart a little love. So if it feels good to you, you could place one hand on the abdomen and one hand on the heart. If that's not working for you today, feel free to either place the hands out to the side, 30, 45 degrees, or simply allow the hands to come and land naturally on the ribs or the belly. I like that little bit of reference. It's almost like we're giving ourselves a little bit of a hug. And in this time of isolation, that sense of belonging, that sense of community is so important right now. So find the position that you're most comfortable in. I'm going to sit up, but I want you to remain lying down in whatever position you've chosen today. Maybe one hand on the heart, maybe one hand on the abdomen. Whatever you feel most nurtures you right now. And as we slowly slide into Eshavasana today, I'm going to read a little bit of one of our favorite poets, John O'Donohue. I like this passage. This is an excerpt from his poem, For Belonging, especially in this time of isolation. I want us all to recognize the importance of this community that practices together. So allow yourself to be here now that you've set yourself up for Belonging by John Donahue. May you listen to your longing to be free. May the frames of your belongings be generous enough for your dreams. May you arise each day with a voice of blessing whispering in your heart. May you find a harmony between your soul and your life. May the sanctuary of your soul never become haunted. May you know the eternal longing that lives at the heart of time. May there be kindness in your gaze when you look within. May you never place walls between the light and yourself. May you allow the wild beauty of the invisible world to gather you, mind you, and embrace you in belonging. May you know that absence is alive with hidden presence, that nothing is ever lost or forgotten. This is actually moving on to another blessing for him called For Absence. May the absences in your life grow full of eternal echo. May you sense around you the secret elsewhere where the presences that have left you dwell. May you be generous in your embrace of loss. May the sore well of grief turn into a seamless flow of presence. May your compassion reach out to the ones we never hear from. May you have the courage to speak for the excluded ones. May you become the gracious and passionate subject of your own life. Excerpts from Blessings from John O'Donohue. And so let yourself be held quietly today in this community. Let yourself feel blessed in this Shavasana today. Let yourself feel the support of the floor or the bed beneath you and the warmth of those who are practicing with you today. Slowly begin the process of coming out of Shavasana. A little deeper inhalation, maybe a little longer exhalation. Blink the eyes open and close, maybe wiggle the fingers and toes a little bit as you roll to the side. Pausing there and then slowly working your way up into any comfortable seated position. Taking your time, keeping the sweetness of Shavasana with you as you come to a seated position, or simply waiting until class is ended and remaining lying down. And then bringing our hands back to heart center, back to where we started, recognizing the sweetness of a class where we take the time to recognize our hearts, to recognize our community and the support that we provide for one another in this time of isolation. Namaste.